Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. Let's talk about data, our own podcast, where we go normally very techy, but our today's topic is very high level on our data leadership level. So thanks, Val. Welcome, Val. Welcome, Marcus. Welcome, Andreas. Welcome to our show. I'm sure this session is going to go very deep, I would say. We'll touch it at high level and we'll try to go at low level as well because CDO role is something. So just for our audience, this session is about role of CDO in current era. And we all know that CDO role is one of the most fragile role nowadays. As per some of the surveys, it says 18 to 24 months. That's it. CDO changes. Now the question is why? Why CDO changes? So I have my own perspective. I'm writing a lot on LinkedIn nowadays on CDO, but I would give this floor first to Marcus because Marcus is, with everyone's permission, Marcus is working on the same thing. He's training on leadership, especially data leadership. Marcus, floor is all yours. You open the floor for you.
Okay. Perfect. Yeah, I like that they record that today because today Gartner released a new insights survey and study about the future of the chief data officer role. And so Gartner is coming up basically with 3 different models where the CDO role might go. And the interesting part is I disagree on all of them. So yeah, let's look at the chief data officer. We introduced that role in many companies to solve the gap between business and data. And the interesting part is if you do some research, I found a book from 1991, which was about data warehouses, which mentions that there's a gap between data and business. So basically, 1991 to 2025, so it's 35 years we are having that pain that there's a gap between data and business. And from my view, it was a great idea that we brought in the chief data officer to close that gap. But from my perspective, most chief data officers failed. And I think that was one of the ideas why we started up that session here to discuss, hey, why are so many chief data officers today are failing in that role, are getting out of the role after 18, 20 months. And I believe my perspective on that is that we are pushing too much responsibility on the chief data officer and assume that we get in one famous name who's going to fix everything. But from my perspective, that is not working because data is not a one-man show. We don't need a hero. Everyone has to take care of data. And yeah, and I'm super happy to be with all of you here in that room and to hear from your experience, your opinions. Where is the chief data officer making impact and how they are making impact?
Okay. So thanks for the kickstart, Marcus. So I have millions of questions. Don't worry, this 60-minute will not be enough for us. Val knows me. I can throw so many questions. So Val, to kickstart this piece, tell us about your take on role of CDO.
I'm sort of agreeing with Marcus there, right? In the sense that it's a controversial role, really. And the reason is not because it's I think the person was set up to fail from the outset, right? They were just not empowered enough, not given enough tools for people, technology, influencing to survive and succeed, right? I mean, I remember the first time we had a CDO and I was working for a big airline back in the day. They just basically created a new department, threw in a bunch of analysts, data scientists, very clever PhD master students, right? Dumped them all in one team and said, look, give them all your data from all departments and the magic's going to start coming out of it, right? They had an IT department, which was obviously a fortress because they control all the engineering, everything, systems. And then the business teams were frustrated because they knew the business. And now they were asked to hand all their sensitive data to somebody who doesn't know anything about the business or cares even. So obviously that failed really quickly, right? 3 or 4 CDOs later, that problem is still being resolved. So yeah, so I have quite strong views around the whole role and the whole function around data. And again, once we talk through the session, I'll share a bit more. But my view is I believe that data and subject matter experts, business units have to be much more closely integrated and own that data rather than having a separate function. So
Yep.
that's where I'll come.
Yep. Okay, now let's go to Andreas because Andreas is also working on a product and meeting customers. So Andreas, what's your take on high level on CDO role?
Right. So I think there are three main reasons why the CDO role fails. And the first reason is it's unclear, why do you even need a CDO? So very often, the only driver behind the role is a FOMO, so fear of missing out. Everybody's doing data, we need to do data as well. Everybody's saying data is not good enough. Oh, we need somebody to fix our data quality. But what does it actually mean to have data as an asset? What does it even mean data is an asset? What does it mean to leverage your data? Those are all commercial slogans. How do you apply this in practice? Crickets. Nobody knows. So you're putting a person and telling them, well, do something, I don't know what, but we want to leverage our data. It is kind of set up to fail from the get-go. The second reason is that why the CDO fails is because they're a chief data officer. Now, data, nobody cares about data in business. What they care is to have the knowledge in order to do their processes or to have some automation to do their processes quicker, smarter, whatever. But the tables, data sets, and data lineage is the last thing on any business person's mind. So as a chief data officer that needs to deliver some business value, you're already misaligned with the business just by the virtue of being so system focused and so data set focused. And that just makes you another IT leader, but we already have a CIO, we have a CTO, so we don't need another one. We don't need another hero. And the third reason is the whole traditional paradigm behind how we do data management and data governance. For example, Val mentioned ownership. What does it even mean to own the data? What does it mean to, what do you actually own? And that is a question that I don't see a lot of companies that I'm talking to, it's kind of unanswered. It's a bit of, again, a framework of commercial slogans and very void platitudes. But what does it mean in practice? Well, in practice, what I would expect from a person on a C-level that is given a responsibility on data and on enabling business with this data is to remove the biggest bottleneck I have in my organization, which is the availability of business experts, which is the main reason why I can't execute all of my business ambitions. I just don't have enough people. They're busy doing their job. They're busy sitting in endless meetings. Can we do something so they don't sit in those endless meetings answering the same question over and over again? Can we empower the whole organization to discover knowledge across the silos, within their silo, to onboard people, to automate that impact analysis? Can we remove the bottleneck of we don't have enough experts to accomplish our business strategy? That I see CEOs sponsoring. Fix our data quality. We don't need a C-level person for that.
Okay, awesome. Great points, actually. Actually, a lot of points, right? So I can put in millions of questions, but I will throw few because right now, nowadays, I'm looking very keenly towards CDO and data leadership roles. Okay, from my perspective, with your permission, although I am a moderator, but I'll always try to jump in. So for me, there are multiple reasons. To start with, Marcus, how this data role come into picture, right? I think the biggest mistake or biggest wrong expectation set on data is chief data officer was this guy will come and generate a value for business. I think that was the basic, because a new role will should not come and generate a value. This piece is for business. Business can generate value for business. Its business role is not CDO role. CDO role for me is to make sure whatever business want to do, it can be done. So that was the starting point, that CDO came in and hires data scientists and analysts and try to find out use cases which can benefit business. It should be the other way around, actually, to start with. Businesses should come and say, hey, I am doing this business, and these are the use cases which can enhance my business. Hey, CDO, create a data product, for example, or something which can generate. So these are my questions. So your data product should generate an answers for me. And these are my actions I should be taking on these answers. And these are the values I should be creating. So that's my first point on what data the chief data officer should be doing. So there are many other reasons, but let's take these questions toward Marcus, that wasn't it, or is my understanding correct that that is what was expected from CDO to come with use cases which can benefit with the two businesses? Wasn't that a conflict?
Yes, I like your points, and I also like what Andreas said about the hero. We often pulled heroes in that role and promised the organization we now have this hero chief data officer, which will come up with ideas how to create business out of data.
Yeah.
But the pressure on all the business owners, product managers, marketing leads is high. But the chief data officer can't take the responsibility of these people away. And what I saw, what happened a lot, we brought in the chief data officers. They came up with great ideas, but then they got into the fight with the business owners, because the business owners, again, had the thought, oh no, he's taking away my business idea.
Absolutely.
He's taking away my value stream. And there, the gap started to grow because there was no trust anymore. There was fight, there was competition. And for example, I see a lot of companies build up a new track, which they call data products, how to create business value out of data products. Yeah, this is not working sustainable on the long term because it's not connected into the core business. It's just to make the chief data officer happy that he's creating business value as well. No, that's not working. And for me, the issue is really about how we place the chief data officer today in the organizations. We have to stop to place him as the hero. We have to stop to place him as the one who is going to solve all our data issues. No, we have to place him as the person who is really able to bring the people together to talk about data and together build the next level of data-driven business. That's not an easy job. We're not talking about if that is easy or how to do it, but it's really about what kind of expectation and message we use to bring a chief data officer into the organization. This is, from my perspective, the biggest part what has to change in the next years.
Absolutely. So we are on the same page, and I'm seeing others that can is already agree on it, that it should not be chief data officer proposing to business how to run their business. So that's first thing. So let me bring so I agree with you, Marcus. That is where, and taking your point, that is where conflict started coming in. That an outside person comes in and start proposing a use cases in front of CEO or board, And the people who are supposed to do business, other C-level, they feel conflicting. And they went onto the back seat, who this guy comes and who knows better than us, which that guy do not know. Now that is where new rule came in. Well, I'm coming towards you. Chief Analytical Officer and Chief Digital Officer start coming in. Because when CDO could not do this role, these two new role came in and they were very good to define the whys. For me, they were very good because CDO could not do why, business can do the better why. Now CAO and Chief Digital Officer came in. They can talk very good, but they cannot do implementation. They had a disconnect with the implementation. So how do you see this new two roles conflicting with CDO? Actually, all three fails actually. Not only CDO, other two also failing it, right? So, well, how do you see that?
I see too many chiefs and not enough workers, just like what Andreas said. It's ridiculous, right? I mean, why do we need a chief data officer, right? We've got the IT traditionally, right? Systems, get the operations running, right? But they traditionally did data as well, pipelines, system integration, right? You went there, you went through a process, BAs, PMs, right? You got your products got out of that. Now we've got a different department that does sort of similar things, right? So they're instantly in conflict with CIO because they don't report to the CIO in a lot of cases, right? So now you got another chief. Then now two other chiefs, and they all shout in the CEO meetings, right? Everybody wants, their 15 minutes of fame, and nothing gets done. So absolutely, this is all rubbish, right? It shouldn't even be there. I fully agree with the principle that, I mean, think about it this way, right? Who runs the business, right? What is this business about? If it's an IT company, right, that's, Microsoft and Google's of it, that's a different story. But it's a factory making widgets, right? Or car manufacturer or an airline or whatever. The money comes from revenue from core operations. The core operations support the profitability of that business, making costs very low and efficient. And the departments want to know, how can data that they generate or consume from external sources help them be better, create more value, right? It's a tool in their sort of toolkit of doing business. Now we're putting a data guy in the middle, and suddenly data becomes this sort of amorphous thing, right? That suddenly is the answer to all questions and everything, and yet it doesn't fit into the departments. So I mean, the CDOs out there probably will hate me, but I wouldn't have a C-level role for that at all, right? So that's where my opinion is.
Okay, before we jump towards Andreas, just to put in my perspective that I like idea of CDO. I do not like the idea of the JD of the CDO because JD is wrong. That's what I feel. Because I feel there has to be business strategy and data strategy has to be part of business strategy. It cannot run silo. Right now, you can call it anything. You can call it CDO, you can call it director of data, whatever you want to call it, but it has to be it. This role has to support business, not run on its own. Unfortunately, what we have been doing is CTO is an IT. CDO is not an IT for me. CDO has to support business. CTO need to give you infrastructure, cloud, XYZ. That is supporting. CDO should not be supporting. So I have a problem with JD. Now, coming towards you, Andreas, I can see you got very excited when I named CAO and the Chief Data Officer. Let me bring a new role which is coming. Chief AI Officer is coming and Chief Agentic AI is also coming, I can tell you. So I have started hearing these names and I still feel all these guys will come and tell business how to run their business. And my personal point of view, all is going to get failed because let business run their business and let's support them, understand their business. Don't try to tell them what their business is. For me, I think in the end of the session, when I will come and say what CDO should do, I think CDO should know business 20 to 30%. Let business know their business 80 to 90%. So coming towards Andreas, CDO, CIO, Chief Digital Officer, how do you see these conflicting roles on the customers where you are meeting?
Well, I think we are missing the chief Excel officer. I mean, AI is just a tool, and Excel is the most famous tool. So where is my chief Excel officer? I mean, if you like to crowd your board, more power to you. But I don't see why. I mean, it's almost all of them sound like a chief FOMO officer. Like, hey, we are doing this too. What are we doing? Not quite sure. But yes, market, we are doing it too. See, we even have an officer for that. But what I heard from all three of you is a very important thing. Data is there to support the business, not tell the business how to do the business. And I think one of the major problems, and I've interviewed a lot of business stakeholders of data departments, and they all pretty much tell me the same thing. I am the expert in my domain. I know what things are called. I know how to describe them. I know how they fit into the rest of the world. Now you come and you ask me and I answer. And then you come back and tell me why I'm wrong. And you dare changing my language and challenging my perspective. Moreover, you dare changing my culture. Like you're coming there and try to change my culture. And you know what? Next time you come, I'll be absent. Another business person told me every time anyone from data comes to me, they walk away with an empty head, just as they came, because judging by the result, and I walk away with more governance policies, more things to do, more standards to abide by, which don't really fit my business reality, simply because we have this perception, I don't even know where it's coming from, that we all need to speak the same language. Well, good luck with that. We all need to have that one model that describes our business. Good luck with that too. And as a result, we have this layer of abstraction delivered by the data function, and then layer of governance to govern that abstraction. That is nobody's reality, nobody's business, nobody's language, and then a set of policies to govern the process governing that abstraction, and then set of teams governing the policies. You got it, right? So it gets a super huge bloated cost center. And if you ask a business stakeholder, so what's the value? Well, they document my definitions, I guess. Okay, would you really pay the money you are paying for all that tooling, those teams, tolerate somebody talking to you in the board meetings because I guess we document the definitions?
Okay, so that was a very heavy take on it. But just all the CDOs who are watching, don't worry, I'm here to defend you. There are three guys who are against CDO. I'm not against CDO, remember that. I love the idea of CDO. I'm going to defend you. I'm going to tell you what one should be doing and what maybe I'll be doing in future. Okay, bringing this piece, which Andrea's raised, which is very, very much reality, which is, I think he's referring towards the governance things, where we go and tell business, hey, rather than we deliver a use case for business, we go and tell business, hey, you should need to follow my language. I'm going to change the whole company's culture. I'm going to create one data model everybody should follow. I'm going to create this, and there are 10 new processes for you to do it. I think that is what is making when I say CDO as a back-end IT team. I think that is where CDO currently is working on. They are more focused on governance and, of course, management, which is just back-end delivery. They are not focused on business value. So I have other points on it. CDOs, don't worry. But coming towards Markus, what do you think? These governance things, and we all know that uh, it's not like that these are not important. I still feel the first bullet point in the JD of CDO is fulfill the requirements of regulatory body. There is no running away from it. Yes, there should not be penalties. We should follow PDP or GDP, all those things. But that should be your BAU thing. That should not be the only thing you should be doing. Marcus, what's your take on it? You are mute, by the way.
Thanks. It's
I'm sorry
a tricky question. Because I thought the whole time when we discussed here about, there are a lot of fractional CDOs out there. And I'm always wondering, okay, do we really need a full-time, long-term chief data officer? Or is that just a fix what we are doing for an issue what the organization is not able to deliver by themselves? And I see a lot of very talented fractional CDOs who come into an organization and really try to bring the data maturity onto a higher level, and then go out again and assume that the organization can run the data topic without having a chief data officer. And the interesting part is what I've seen most of them then fail on the data governance part. Because for data governance, it's nice the idea to distribute it over the organization, but you need one lead who really has the bigger picture, who knows what change is happening, and also keeps the different units accountable. Because to be honest, no one doesn't want to make data governance, data documentation, and all of that. But if you have someone who takes the people accountable and actively keeps it on the table, what are the benefits of having a strong data governance, it works very well. But so far, I haven't seen an organization which can run data governance on a distributed level. They all had a very clear centralized lead. If that is then again in the responsibility of the chief data officer, or however we call him, I don't see it there, because the data governance part, it needs someone more active, executing person, and not one who is strong in talking. It needs someone who can take action and make changes.
Thank you so much for raising. I was about to bring this piece. When I'm going towards Val, thanks Marcus for raising. Well, this is exactly my question. And I think this is where we started, that the role, or as Andreas mentioned, a hero. CDO came as an hero who can generate so much of business. So ideally, a person who can talk a lot. Thanks, Marcus, for taking this word. I didn't want to start it, but thanks for letting it. A person who comes, who are very much extrovert, I would say. I'm not against extroverts, but for me, extroverts normally sits in the sales and marketing domain. But normally, extroverts or people who can really talk, they can convince to top management that, hey, we are the right people, but they are not data background. I think what Marcus is referring, if you are working and delivering governance, especially data governance, you need to be a guy who has dirty his hands or her hands into data field. So at least they understand, right? I personally think that's the gap, because non-data guy when become CDO, they cannot do this, they cannot do that. This piece is business owner, business values. This piece, a pure person who is data background can only understand, right? I have few example. I will put it later. So, Val, do you think what this is another one of the reason why CDOs keep changing? Because they came in, they talk about business, they should not be, but they could not also do the governance job. Reason.
Yeah, and that's how they piss off everybody else, because as Andreas mentioned, it's just too heavy-handed, right?
Yeah.
15 more processes, nobody wants to comply. You even forget. You want to always have a cheat sheet in front of you when you got 10 deadlines? No. So I agree. Again, it's the thing, going back to the chief thing. Why do you need another chief? It's a technical role. You got a data governance. You've got, I'm more around, for instance, bringing people together, data literate, right? Maybe IT people, architect, right? It's a sort of like a guild, a center of excellence. You get these people in the club from different departments. They can agree, because the C-level people wouldn't have a clue what they want, right? So you get the people who actually deliver things and say, look, this is our business. This is how it works. This is how we make money. This is how data can help us, right? This is where we can plug the gaps. We can't solve all the problems with the data, but these are the key areas we can do. Let's focus on that. This is our strategy for the next couple of years. We might need to bring new systems. We might need to bring additional resources, whatever it is, right? Let's focus on that. And it's always going to be around revenue generation or cost optimization, right? Anything else is just support stuff, nonsense, right? Just distracting. So somebody supervising that guild could be something like a CDO, but again, it could be, internally elected type of role. So you don't need really. I remember I've seen many companies where it works, is people talk to each other. They collaborate. They know, oh, I need to buy coffee to that guy because he's got the data. He knows everything about it. We'll go talk for 5 minutes and my problem is sorted, right? Then if I need to bring a marketing person in because they've got the CRM and we have to have a formal access to it, okay, we'll buy him a coffee as well and then sort that out, right? And then you get a sort of a data product informally done and the business gets running, right? Somebody owns that because, well, I was interested in that product. I'm running it. It delivers value for my team and I bring the value to the business. There is no sort of a data team going in search of use cases around the business, which I see happens a lot of in badly run companies. Same with AI. I'm sure you're going to bring that towards AI, but AI is a use case in search of technology in search of a use case at the moment. So a lot of it POC, but not really few in production. So that's where I think.
Okay, awesome. So yes, I am going to bring agentic AI later. I am going to bring data products later, but I'll take this feedback from Andreas on why CDOs cannot even do data governance piece.
Well, yeah. So firstly, I would like to say that I'm not saying we don't need a CDO. I think we do need a CDO. We just don't need them to do what they traditionally do according
wrong
to
JD. You mean
framework.
wrong JD, yeah.
Exactly. Because to me, the role of CDO is enable the company to do more with less. And what does that mean? Do more initiatives, do more innovation, do more revenue with less risk, overhead, and cost. So that is a very, very important business role. And why CDO? Why data? Because where is the bottleneck? Again, experts are bottlenecks. So, well, I appreciate that indeed in companies, it's very often happens that you buy a coffee to somebody and get your answers. But when the company gets big enough, those people, they get a caffeine poisoning because they drink so many coffees that people buy to them. It's too much. And I've literally seen companies where people don't have a chance to do their job because other people are coming with the same questions all over again. That is what the CDO should remove. So they should provide the business knowledge, structured, accessible, and understandable to everybody, regardless of the silo they're coming from. And they should enable this ability of people to self-discover, discover what else we have in the organization, and yes, find the digital assets that can support innovation. So it comes down to almost like cataloging and structuring business knowledge, how that knowledge is captured in the data layer, and how we can or cannot use that data. If you get that to an organization, the organization becomes more efficient because they can do more, they can do quicker, they don't need all the analysis phase, they don't need all the big boring workshops, literally sucking out the time of business experts, and they can move way quicker, and there is a clear return on investment attached to it. However, what very often happens is, yes, governance, let's start with writing standards and policies. But the fact is, you can't possibly capture business knowledge in standards and policies. I think when you do governance, you're not looking for somebody to point a finger at. You are looking at an expert willing to represent their knowledge to the rest of the organization, looking for support to do this in a structural manner, hopefully delegating some automated solution to do that, and that can answer any remaining questions, but not all the questions all the time, every day. So that is the governance. I govern my knowledge. I have a subset of stories about this business that I know. And whenever that changes, I will come to you, the CDO, and tell you what changed. And it is your job to make sure everybody looking for those stories finds them, but through you, not coming to me.
Absolutely.
So
I totally agree on it. And that is where I bring this new era, agentic AI. But before we go into agentic AI, just a time check. We have 20 odd minutes. So you guys are looking into customers very deeply, I know. But I'll again coming back to the Markus, because Markus is training data leaders. So Markus, I have come up with this. I think it's a right forum and right panel to talk about data landscape, data practice landscape. So maybe if you get a chance, you look into my few podcasts, LinkedIn posts, I have put it over there. So I have defined this whole CDO role. I try to do that into data practice landscape. And I have divided that into two pieces. First one I say is foundation of data practice. Within foundation of data practice, I bring in governance and rest of the BAU things. Governance comes, lineage comes, data management comes, which is traditional. I feel these should be invisible from the whole organization. Nobody should know. Like when I was doing this master's in IT, my lab administrator told me the best administrator is the one whose name nobody knows, because there is no bug into the system. So that stuck with my mind, right? In my memory. So this one piece, I feel all is a BAU. Second piece which I brought in is my 4x4 formula. I don't want to brag about it, but yes, little bit I'm bragging. So that is where I think CDO value comes in. First is traditional, invisible to everyone. Second one, 4x4, I have four core dimensions. I will only discuss the first one, which I feel where CDO should work, which is management of data products. First one, in this 4x4, every core dimension has four sub pillars. So I will talk about the first one only. The moment CDO goes in, CDO should look into all the data products sitting on the shelf. Because we all know that the second name of the failure is on the shelf. Nobody call it, it's a failure. They put it on the shelf. CDO should go in because there are hundreds of data products. We call it data warehouse, data marts, XYZ. These are data products sitting over there. CD should go and reevaluate which are we can decom. CD should decom because CD should understand the data. Second sub pillar is all those data products which are in having issues, because we have seen so many times in pilots, in POCs, project goes very good. The moment a lot of data comes in after 6 months, data products start having problems. CDOs should look into that. First is data products on shelf. Second thing, data products in production with issues. Third one, the third sub dimension of the core dimension is all those use cases which businesses have but do not understand the technology. Because every 3 months to 6 months, new technology is coming in. So CDO with the proper data background should support business that whatever vendors are proposing, he should be able to evaluate those technologies. Last but not the least, now that is where, which I say 20% of the use cases which CDO, while moving into the market, global market, come and tell business, hey, business, your all use cases are good, but I feel These are the also use cases you can look into it. And that is where one piece can be given by the CDO to the business to evaluate the use case. Marcus, what do you think about? I think it's too much knowledge, but what do you think about this piece where CDO, one is BAU piece, second is value generation. What do you think about that?
When we started today, we talked about that there's that gap, and the gap when we look onto the last years got bigger because a lot of CDOs had challenges with the business world, so they moved themselves more in the technology world. And a lot of CDOs got famous for all their technologies, data catalogs, data mesh, all data lakes, what they brought into the companies. And so when listening to you with your framework, I think it's really great that there is something which can help CDOs to understand that they have to look on the big picture. They have to understand what these technologies, how they can help the organization. But it's not about helping them, it's about helping them to create value.
Yep.
And I have my favorite example is more or less every company has a data catalog today. And the main data catalog providers, they make a lot of advertisement that they have this SQL engines in there, and by having the analysts using the SQL editor within the data catalog can understand much better the data lineage and how the data is everything created. This is great. But is that creating business value for the company? Do I want to invest 100,000 euros in a fancy SQL tool in the data catalog, which helps me to get faster for the analyst in the performance? It's nice, but that this gives me a return of investment in the business value of what I have to invest. This is a really hard calculation. And that's my point, and I think there your framework might go into the right direction. This is what the chief data officer has to be able to evaluate how technology, data, and connects to business, and how this goes together.
Yeah, just to comment on catalog as you mentioned, right? And I think I will answer this one from the shoe of a CDO actually. The data catalog we use now, I personally think we are using it for the wrong purpose. Catalog is a very, very strong medium to look into data. How? Because catalog actually is made of business metadata and technical metadata. And technical, of course, with operational metadata as well. And it connects. Now, metadata is very strong thing. Normally, we create metadata for lineage. But I feel if you have a proper metadata, give an example. If you create a dashboard and you have a proper metadata of a dashboard, then I personally feel with my experience, if you have a proper metadata, you can reduce 80% of the dashboard from the organization. Because you go and search, hey, I want to understand what is the outcome of this product from this region and blah, 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 blah. If you search that one and you already have a dashboard, voila, problem solved. So right now, I think we are using this catalog as an IT piece. We should not be using it IT piece. We should use it to complement business value. This is just just to answer on comment on this piece. So catalog need to be there, but use it properly. So now I hope I am able to answer that. So while coming towards you on this piece, the framework, I'm sure you have gone through, we have discussed this in past as well. This is where I'm bringing CDO to generate value. That is where I say BAU should work should be, which is governance and management, should be invisible. The visible CDO should only meet business to talk about data product, either to decom data product, either to fix data product in the production, either to propose a technology to implement their use case, or either propose the use case. Everything tagged to the value. What do you think about that change of JD for CDO? I hope now you will like it.
No. I mean, again, it's the chief that gets me, right? But the role of a senior data person is definitely required, right? Somebody who helps subject matter experts
Yeah.
navigate the whole landscape of technology and data, because a lot of them are, 30, 40-year-old experience before retirement, super knowledgeable. Everything's in there.
Yeah.
Very basic Excel is the skill, right? So obviously they have ideas, how to improve their areas. They need the help navigating that. So that I agree. I agree with the technical part, automating stuff behind the scenes that data flows seamlessly, right? Now, I'm not quite sure about the data products in this case, right? It's Excel spreadsheet is a data product, right? So, I mean, it might be run for 10 years by one analyst, how are you going to evaluate that? You don't know how it's built. You might have left 2 years ago. They're still using the spreadsheet because it's got a refresh button, right? So you need somebody there to really go and unpick this spaghetti of integration pipelines and databases, right? To bring that data together. I know that because I had to unpick a few of these products myself, right, over the years. And it's a freaking nightmare. It's easier to rebuild one. So, but then you know what you are looking after, right? You understand the core building blocks of that particular data product. Takes time, takes effort. CDO will never do that. Needs to be some kind of analyst and teams doing it behind the scenes, right? So now we're talking about a team of people unpicking potentially data products and rebuilding them. Is there value in that if the product works? I mean, a spreadsheet is a spreadsheet. If it delivers value, okay, well, it might crash one day. Fair point. But right, but is that gonna, you spend 10, 20 grand migrating into the cloud? Is that going to generate 10, 20 grand of value if it only shows, weekly financial report, right? A lot of data teams will push for that. Hey, we got to move to the cloud. We got to have Snowflake, Databricks, whatever, all that singing, dancing stuff, right? Whereas spreadsheet can absolutely deliver the value as is. So yes, I don't know. The answer is, I feel there is some room for improvement, but probably there's an equation cost benefit, right? Somewhere in that area, but definitely not done by the CDO.
Yeah.
So now we're talking about how big the team you need to have, and that is a cost equation. So
Yeah, so let me just again comment on this Excel piece, because my next panel discussion is in July, where we are talking about what is data product actually, because suddenly data product, definition of data product has become very hot topic. Actually, last week I've talked with Veronica from US, my 50th episode of this Let's Talk About, and we have discussed data product. So to answer, comment, not answer, comment on this Excel, right? And we will all agree that nothing is better than Excel when you do analysis, right? So the thing is, in a very nutshell, the definition for me, again, the second pillar of the second core dimension of 4 by formula is from inquiry to value creation is. So in the second pillar, I have sub dimension into it. It says every data product should have questions, should have answers, and based on the answer, should have actions, and based on the action, there has to be value. So question, answers, action, and values. If these four things are not there, I don't think so. We should create a data product because there is no value, right? And value is not always dollar value. Value can be anything. There can be a non-profit organization. Value has to be there. So just to answer you, yes, in my point of view, an Excel can be a data product, but if it is generating a value, if it is not generating a value, clean it. Now coming back to the Andreas. Andreas, again, Now, let me repeat my question because it might have buried here and there. Keeping BAU separate and bringing this new piece of JD for CDO to build, to evaluate, to decom, to propose data products which has the value. That is the only way, only I would say time CDOs should talk to business. What's your take on it?
Well, to be honest, my take on the CDO role is CDO should close the gap between business and IT.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Rigid, not introduce an army of analysts, but as a business person, I go to the platform provided to me by CDO, I create a business action, and the action on data and systems is generated as a spec for IT that can just pick it up. They don't need to understand the business. They don't need business analysts or data analysts. They just have A, B, C, D, what they have to do, and they can do it, and I get whatever I was trying to accomplish. And from that perspective, you also mentioned catalogs. And I think this is exactly the take on catalogs that is necessary, because indeed, we are abusing a catalog to just document things business doesn't really care about. So we buy very expensive technology with very expensive maintenance to please developers that actually could find their lineage by themselves. They can read their jobs.
Yeah.
But there is a very big constraint. If we would like a business person to come there and find the knowledge, find answer to their questions, discover the data products or data sets available to them, understand how to use them and why they were created, and what they can or cannot do with them, we need to do better than the current data catalog technologies, because people talk in different ways. They use different terms. They see the world differently. And right now in the business catalog, you don't find anything unless you search in a language in which it was described. And that is a problem. That is why Hakuna exists. So this is the bridge that we are basically crossing, the bridge between business and IT. But once CDO has done that, I think decommissioning the duplicated dashboards becomes really an IT task. So I have a business story, and I see that this story is represented in 5 different dashboards in 5 different places, which means I can take a decision to clean 4 up and leave the 1, or clean all 5 of them up. And that is something IT can do without CDO or his team spending time on that. So enabling this ability of IT to do actions for business that are meaningful, but that don't overwhelm the business expert with more sessions, more questions, I see this as a job of a CDO. And if a CDO can deliver that, they will not be fired after 1 year. That is a
Thank you. So now we have a time check of 3 to 5 minutes. So let's go for the last round, the last question. Let's touch base this latest technology, latest buzzword, agentic AI. So let me set the context. I hope I am not pissing off a lot of product companies. That last time we were talking about, we were saying data mining. Then I'm just setting the context. Then we start saying it machine learning. Then we start calling it data science. Then we start calling it AI. Then we start calling it generative AI. Now agentic AI. For me, everything is same actually. It's just a different name, right? Technology keep changing. And now for all my CDO brothers and sisters, data still remains same. So data has the same value. So I feel that's why I'm a big fan of CDO, because CDO will always remain there, and rest will keep changing. That's my perspective. Like there's a business strategy, then there is a data strategy, and then there is the rest of the strategy. That's what I feel, because you need data. We are talking into a language. This communication need to happen. So what's your take, Markus, on this agentic AI era? We'll take everyone. I think let's take it 1 minute for everyone. Yeah.
Okay. For me, there is a massive potential in there. And I have a very simple example. You have an analyst who creates an amazing dashboard. He is able to present it very well to the data team. The CEO will understand no word of what he has said. But if he puts his wording into AI, asks the AI, reframe it that the CEO will understand it, he will learn so much and will give a much better presentation. And this is just one example where AI will make our jobs in the data world different and more efficient in the next years. And I'm a strong believer that this also will work a lot in coding and everywhere. But as a CDO, I invite every CDO, be open, be adaptable to see what's coming there and use it, again, to create business value, not to make things nicer, but have a look how you can create business value out of that. And yeah, that's my last minute.
Thank you so much. So just a caveat, I'm not against of agentic AI. In the last, I will say, when I say everything is same, means it's not something rocket science came out of it. It's all same machine learning. But the way agentic AI comes, I will reserve my comment in the last. Well, your take on agentic AI.
I mean, I'm sort of a little biased because we work with agentic AI, right? We sort of integrated it into our product. But as a sort of, I mean, the value we see is sort of like RPA at the moment,
Yes.
right? So you basically take away the complexity of it, the unknown part of it, abstract it, and let the technology do magic so the people on the receiving end just consume what they always expected to consume. In this case, like, you know, some contract information processed, analyzed, and it's just summarized in front of them. So you take away manual processing of a lot of stuff behind the scenes. It's adapting, learning, right? Obviously, all of that clever stuff. What I have an issue is when the company is saying, look, we're going to have a few seniors now, we're going to sack all the juniors, we give the seniors agentic AI, and they can run the business, you know, 3 people in the company. That I have big issue with. Because that's going to fail miserably, and we're going to all have to pick up the pieces 5 years from now. So yeah, that's my take.
Okay, so just to comment on this one, I still feel agentic AI will replace a lot of jobs, but I think the next war is not within the vendors are not on tools. It will be on agents. Like there's a planner agent, there's an execution agent, there's a observer agent. There are so many types of agents. So now the war is who will come up with which kind of agent. Then there'll be competition. Hey, buy IBM planner agent or Microsoft planner agent. So that's the next war I can foresee. Andreas, your take on agentic AI.
My take is very related to the job of the CDO because agentic AI will add a lot of value to the business. I firmly believe in it. I believe in BizOps, where you have a digital twin that enables you to test and deploy business processes and the ways to run your business, not just applications. And that requires agentic AI, but agentic AI requires ability to communicate to different AI agents across the silos. And remember, in silos, they speak different languages, have different perspectives. So it becomes the job of CDO to enable not just cross-silo knowledge discovery by people, but also cross-silo discovery and communication by those agents. And here lies the challenge for the CDOs, because that means doing data the Dharma Diambok way is not going to work, because in that world, you can no longer split the information model from your metadata, from your governance, from your security, compliance, and privacy. It has to be one consistent universe, one digital twin of data in your organization. And that is the only way to enable really agentic AI with a huge impact. So I'm not saying, okay, review my email and send it out. I'm saying run my supply chain for me. That is where the real money lays. And for that, I think the organizations will be looking at the CDO with a proper JD, not with the current JD, to enable that. And whoever manages first wins and gets the market.
Okay, last but not the least, my take on agentic AI. I think agentic AI is not new. I think it will change the whole horizon. The way Microsoft changed, the way cloud changed, now the way agentic AI will change. That's, I think, my personal take is. And as someone says, agentic AI will not take your jobs. Whoever will learn AI will take your job. So as Andreas mentioned, CDO has to be on top of agentic AI technology as well. And it will change everything if used properly. Because it's an umbrella actually. Under agentic AI, you can have workflows, you can have execution pipelines, you can have testing jobs, you can have analysis jobs. So many things are there. That's why I say that there will be a war of agents, no more tools. Tools will be invisible, will be handled by agentic AI. Again, thank you so much, all of you. I think this is one of the best session I have done on actually CDO is data products. We have discussed a lot of things and a lot of views has come. I think we have all been very focal and again, learning for me as well. And thanks everyone. Have a nice rest of the day. Thanks for participating.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Really.
Take care. Bye-bye.